All right, in today's video, we're gonna be talking about the Tonemaster Pro. So in this video, I kind of just want to give a little rundown of what my thoughts are, and really open up a series for showing you how to get really good tones and the most bang for your buck out of this unit. I got this unit right at launch, and I've waited a month to make a video because I didn't just want to be one of the guys that jumps on the hype train and just put out as much content without really understanding the unit. So far, as of what's today, the 14th of November, I've played 11 gigs with this unit, and I am just honestly blown away with it. Now, for reference, I'm coming into the Tonemaster Pro as an old tube user that switched over to the Axe-Fx 3, and I was looking for something that had about the same power, the same capability of the Axe-Fx 3, but I wanted a smaller form factor. Before, or at the beginning of October, I had COVID, and when I was down for the count with COVID, I was looking into floor modelers. At the time, I was looking at the FM9, the Quad Cortex, the Helix, and then right before I was about to pull the trigger on the Quad Cortex, Fender dropped the Tonemaster Pro. And after looking at it, I ultimately decided to go with it. So in this video, I hope you take away my reasons for getting into it, the things that I enjoy, and also the things that are kind of the pain points of the unit. Alright, so getting off to the bat, some of the things I really enjoy that the Tonemaster Pro does better than any modeler that I've used, or VST for that matter, is clean amps. If you are a fan of the Fender clean amps, this is your this is your modeler. Stop looking. This is the one you want. If you're someone who uses a lot of high gain amp, you may have heard people say like, oh, the high gain amps are really lacking. I'm not one of those guys. I think the high gain amp are really good. For an example, here is a B-roll of me playing at a local gig, playing Lamb of God through the Tonemaster Pro through the house PA system. I actually enjoy the high gain amps. I have gigged with the Van Halen amp, and I've set up a whole main rig where I switch between that and a Princeton so I can have clean and dirty tones in one preset. And it did really, really well. I played Lamb of God for reference. I played Highway Star by Deep Purple, and then I also played an original composition. Van Halen amp does really, really well. And it is probably the best high gain amp that's on this unit, and you would expect it to be, considering that's a Fender unit. If you're interested in downloading any of the tones that you hear in this video, if you go on to the Fender app for your computer, search my name, Damien Andy, you can find all of my rigs and download them directly, free of cost. The amp I used the most in the Axe-Fx 3 was the Friedman amp. They do have it modeled in here, but honestly, I don't use it that much because the Van Halen amp on this unit is just so good. And it also interacts the same way that a tube amp does. So for example, in the early 80s, a popular thing to do would get a high gain amp like a Marshall, and then if you need clean tones, you pull back the volume knob. You can do the same thing here, and I've done it. I've even done it in a live situation. You can see this video here. Downside is that some of the complaints whenever you're looking into, like, say the Marshall, like the JVM, is that it's very high-end focused. In the Facebook group that you can join, one of the engineers actually came out and said, well, we modeled one of the original JVM amps, and the way that amp IR responds is different than modern day JVM. So I have read that they're expecting to update that in firmware 2.0 and give you the option of, do you want a modern JVM sound or do you want an original? Because according to him, they're going from all original gear and going for a one-to-one modeling. So it's interesting that Fender came out and said that and acknowledged it. I haven't really messed with that amp too much, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed with it in comparison to the Van Halen amp. I haven't really dealt a lot with the other amps, and that's not to say that they're not as good. It's just that I found the Van Halen amp and my ears love it. So the main amps that I use in this model are the Princeton and the Van Halen amp. Now let me give you some food for thought. If you're one of these people and you're like, man, you paid, well, I got it for $15.29 using promo code Fender. But let's just say you paid $16.99. So you're like, damn, you're only getting 2 really good amps for $16.99. All right, well, on the flip side, a Princeton amp, well, let's go with deluxe, because I have a deluxe reverb, a real one in the room. My deluxe reverb retails for, I think, $16.99 now. I got it at $1,200. If you look at the Van Halen 3 full stack, you're looking at about $2,000 investment. So if you were to just buy those 2 tube amps, not only do you have to lug them around, which, by the way, just my deluxe reverb, and I weighed this for my recent gigs, my deluxe reverb weighs more than my entire rig now, guitar included. So that you would have the weight of the 2 amps, plus you'd have to drop about double what this unit's worth. So look at it from that perspective, and that's not even getting into the cost that it provides you as a guitarist by having all the effect pedals that you need in here. One thing that I wish that this unit had that it doesn't have is a virtual capo. I use this all the time on the Axe FX3. And if you're unfamiliar with what a virtual capo does, not only can you tune your guitar up by half-step increments, but you can also tune it down. So I live stream on TikTok a lot, and sometimes I will get requests for songs that are in B standard or in C sharp standard, and I don't have guitars tuned that low. So with the Axe FX3, I could go in, put a virtual capo, and detune my guitar by 3 half steps or a whole, depending on what guitar I'm playing on. It allowed it to be really versatile. I expect that that's coming in future firmware releases, but as of the 14th of November, we do not have that in this unit. Now there is a D-pitch harmonizer that you can use, and you can blend the dry guitar signal all the way down, but it's monophonic, meaning that it only does 1 note at a time. I actually used that in the Addams Family musical that I performed in recently as a pit musician, and I use it for 12 cents below, so basically you're octave down, and it worked really, really well. But I cannot use that for detuning guitar purposes. So at this point in time, that is the biggest thing on here that this is lacking for me. Another downside of this unit that's really more of an annoyance than anything is, for whatever God reason the engineers thought of, every preset volume is radically different than the last preset you use. So I noticed this when I got into recording with this. When I started recording the signal that's coming from here, I noticed that in my DAW, the volume was so low. I had to run it through a compressor, do a lot of gain staging to get it up to where I could get it even in a mix. Later, by reading through the manual, I came in and I saw that each preset has a certain volume threshold, and most of them are in like the 15%, the 23%, and it's just an annoyance that you have to go into each preset and jump it up to 100, and then you can mix it, because not only does it have a preset volume, but you also have your line out volume, so you can really get in there and blend. Now on the blend side, I used that recently. Here's a success story of the Tone Master Pro. I was a pit musician for the Addams Family musical. Inside of the pit, our music director's piano DI went out. On the fly, I patched his piano directly into my mic in, set up a studio preamp, did a mix on the unit, and then I sent it to the front of the house. So both of the guitar and the piano were coming through the Tone Master Pro. It saved the day. Now another pain point that you may have if you're a Helix user, and I'm not a Helix user, so my ability to speak on this is limited, but I understand that a lot of those guys use scenes. In here, my workflow has not been scene or preset specific. Typically what I will do is I will set up equivalent to, like, if you've ever ran like a dry and wet rig, I kind of do something similar, so I kind of use this more as a pedal board platform than I do switching presets. Maybe that's something that'll change as I continue to learn modeling, but for me, the best thing has been set up pedals, figure out a clean amp or a dirty amp, or just use a clean amp with pedals, because they have a rat pedal. They call it the rodent pedal in here. And I can switch between whatever amps I'm doing. Mapping things to buttons is so simple on here. I've done it on the fly. I would never want to do that on the fly with the Axe FX3. The Axe FX3 is just so complicated. It does everything, but that's also its downside, is that it does everything. This, again, the UI is just so simple. So if you're not a guy who likes to dial in a specific guitar tone for 10 hours, this is your baby. Trust me, this thing, once you get your hands in it, you'll be like, holy smokes. So to provide a quick overview of this unit doesn't do everything that the competitors do, but the things that it does do, it does really well. Now there are some pain points with any new product. However, the pain points haven't been significant enough for me to say this is not a gigable unit. And I think that's where this unit shines, is that if you are a working musician and you just need something that's easy to use, that gets out of your way and allows you to be creative, this is the best modeler for that I have personally used. I don't need to model my amps. The amps that I would model, or the rig that I would model, would be my 65 Deluxe Reverb. That is just my favorite amp, and it's built in, and they do an extremely great job modeling that. It's insane. The same tricks that I use on my tube amp to get into headspace work on here. It literally feels like my amp is inside of this unit. And coming from the tube world, getting into the digital world, that is like the best compliment I can give, because now there's no no more stress of trying to figure out and get in and dialing in and doing your low cuts and your high cuts. It just works and sounds so good out of the box. It's not a perfect unit, but it's the perfect unit for me. And I think that's what you really need to ask yourself whenever you're looking at these units. Stop trying to find the best unit, because here's the thing, all of them are great right now. You can buy any unit, the Helix by Line 6, the Quad Cortex by Neural DSP, the Tone Master Pro by Fender, or the FM9 by Fractal Audio. All of these units are going to do an exceptional job at modeling. We're just living in the golden age of guitar gear. But if you want something that is just so intuitive, and you don't need to have an audio engineering degree to get really good sounds out of it, I highly recommend this unit. If you decide to pick up one of these, or if you're interested in the world of digital amps, consider leaving me a follow or subscribing to me on here. I am going to be building out a lot more content showing you how to get the most out of your modeling world in a recording scenario and from a live gigging musician standpoint. I already have a bunch of videos over on my TikTok. If you're a TikTok user, Damien Andy, I use the same handle everywhere online. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Again, I have about 10 shows or 11 shows underneath my belt with the Tone Master Pro, and I haven't had any hiccups where it made me squirmy as a guitarist. I do have the full rig, so I bought the FR12 speaker, and I have the Mission Express pedal. Everything works flawless. You'll hear some people complain about a hiss, or on the FR cab speaker, and if you're interested, I'll make a whole video on this unit, but it just sounds great. I don't have the hiss. If you had the hiss, you might have dirty power. I find that it interacts very similar to a tube amp. But I did have a hiss when it first came in. After about 10 hours of use, it's gone away. So maybe these people are just turn it on, turn it off, and that's it. If you use it, it's not an annoyance. Not in my household, at least. And then if it's really bad, you can cut it out. But if you have any questions about this gear, leave me a comment below. And with that, I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And if you've made it this far, in the comment section, let me know what you're grateful for today. I'm grateful for you watching this video and can't wait to read your comments.